So it's time for the August Chamber legislative update. With the general election coming up in a few months, our committees and board have spent the last month looking into the upcoming state propositions that will be on our November ballot. Over these next 2 months, I'll be sharing how the SLO Chamber Board recommends our community vote on some of these propositions. There are 10 propositions on the ballot, I roll, but the SLO Chamber reviewed the 7 we thought were most important. The first proposition we reviewed was Proposition 4. Proposition 4 is a bond measure for $10 billion in bonds to be issued by the state of California. The bond would fund state and local parks, environmental protection projects, water and infrastructure projects, energy projects, and flood protection projects. When you look at where nearly 40% of this money is proposed to be spent, you find that it's focused on water supply issues, flood reduction measures, and river and lake restoration projects. With the effects of climate change bringing bigger and bigger swings on significant weather events, getting ahead of the prolonged droughts and atmospheric rivers that damage our agricultural resources and daily lives will be worthwhile investments. Another substantial chunk of the bond will be spent on energy infrastructure, whether that's money spent to improve wind energy, transmission lines, or battery storage. These are all areas that our community is going to be at the center of development for the state. This investment now will have long-term benefits for our state and directly to our community. And paying for them today will cost a lot less than if you wait 5 or 10 years to do this work. Investment in these specific items are highlighted in the Chamber's economic vision and the environmental stewardship pillar of Imagine SLO. That is why the board of the SLO Chamber of Commerce recommends that we vote to support Proposition 4. The next proposition is Proposition 5. It's a constitutional amendment. This proposition would allow local bond measures that fund affordable housing and public infrastructure projects to be passed at the 55% level instead of the 66.67 vote threshold. A local bond measure would have to meet all the requirements set forth in the proposition to be eligible for the 55% support threshold. Affordable housing projects in this proposition would be defined as housing developments or portions of housing developments that are affordable to individuals, families, seniors, people with disabilities, veterans, or first-time homebuyers who are low-income households or middle-income households earning up to 150% of countywide median income. And it would include down payment assistance programs, first-time homebuyer programs, permanent supportive housing, and facilities used to serve residents of affordable housing, the type of solutions that we were discussing at our last housing summit. The public infrastructure projects would include streets, highways, broadband internet access, local hospital construction, public safety buildings, and public libraries, among other public infrastructure. Knowing that our county lost out on hundreds of millions of dollars in match from the state and federal government for transportation projects due to the loss of Measure J in 2016 by a few hundred votes, meaning that 34% of the voters kept 66% of the voters from those important investments, the SLO Chamber Board recommends that we vote to support Proposition 5. Our next proposition is Proposition 34. We reviewed this one because if and or when you start to read it, you will find one of the most complex propositions. This initiative requires certain healthcare providers that participate in Medi-Cal prescription programs and receive federal discount prescription programs will require them, this initiative will require the certain healthcare providers that do that to spend 98% of the revenues they derive from their patients to be spent on direct patient care. Well, it sounds simple enough. It's when you get to the details that you find out it's way more complicated and maybe singularly focused on one entity. While the SLO Chamber Board believes the idea of spending profits from federally discounted prescriptions on direct patient care is a worthwhile issue, the board could not conclude if this proposition was the right way to go about it. So, the board of the SLO Chamber did not take a position for or against and recommend that voters review the information provided on websites like Ballotpedia to determine if they think it should be supported or opposed. The final proposition we'll discuss today is Proposition 35. This citizen-initiated state statute would permanently codify an already existing tax on managed care organizations that help fund our Medi-Cal programs. A quick example of a managed care organization is a healthcare provider like Kaiser Permanente, or the only one we have here in SLO County, CenCal Health. These organizations are already paying this tax, but it is set to expire in 2026, and this measure would allow it to continue indefinitely to continue to fund healthcare services for Medi-Cal recipients and make our overall healthcare system stronger. This measure literally has no opposition. The supporters of the measure are California Dental, Hospital, Medical, Primary Care Association, and maybe the most telling, the State Democratic Party and the State Republican Party endorsed the measure. When we get Democrat and Republicans agreeing on anything, we need to take that win and run. So the SLO Chamber Board recommends that we support Proposition 35. So those are the first four that the Chamber reviewed, and we will discuss the next three at next month's Good Morning SLO, which are way more controversial. We'll have our Chamber voter guide digitally and printed for you next month with all the recommendations. As you probably know, the SLO Chamber does not endorse candidates, but as of August 9th, we have our official list of candidates running for SLO City Council. We do want to give you, our members, an opportunity to meet all those candidates running for SLO City Council, so we will be hosting a forum with all those candidates in the first week of October. So stay tuned for that announcement, and that is your legislative update.